went to the University of Vermont for school, so she knows exactly what she's talking about. She worked with Paralympic athletes to help develop products for them. She started off at Burton, was there for about 5 years, and has now moved on over to Rome. And honestly, I'm super stoked to have you on. And I can't talk about how much, like, how stoked I am and how pretty much this is awesome for us. Thank you for joining us, Maggie.
Thanks for having me, TC. I'm stoked to be a part of this conversation.
No problem. So let's just start from the beginning, where you went to school at Vermont and you were focusing on engineering, design, that sort of thing. What was the main point to really get you into the snowboard side when you were in school, I should say?
Well, I grew up snowboarding since the age of 7. It was always kind of a dream to try to combine the idea of curating a role that allows me to snowboard to the fullest extent and design to the fullest extent. And that just has been a dream role since I was a kid. Part of the reason I actually went to the University of Vermont was because I was looking to work with Burton in the future. My dad was a chemical engineer, and he saw um, a way for me to figure out how to approach both sides to kind of push that on the business side and make it appealing to brands that are maybe looking for someone who can be the liaison between the development team and a rider who works on the products themselves. So I feel like that was something that from the start was a dream role that I was trying to push and create and pursue. And it's pretty insane I was able to make this become a reality.
Yeah, I mean, it was very forward thinking of you to be like, I can be an athlete in this. I can do that, but that's only going to go so long. Your body can only take it so much. So for you and even your father to be like, hey, maybe you should go into the other side of it and really help develop stuff where it's definitely more of a longevity role where you can keep doing that even after you've passed your prime. So that's awesome.
It it's funny because a lot of people speak to that, but that's definitely not like that never crossed my mind at all. It's just since the age of 10, I've always wanted to be an engineer. And so I wanted to figure out a way to do both because it's something that I also love. Like, yeah, it was something I didn't want to give up. And it was just the ultimate goal kind of a thing. So coming from Connecticut and having, when my parents met, they met in Killington, Vermont. And so we always had that house. So we'd go up every weekend. We knew Burton was in Vermont. And so I started getting Flowed Burton product in high school. And so I was working with the White Flag team to try to figure out a way to kind of make my way into the brand beyond the riding side. So that was something the reps helped me push as well.
The fact that they saw that was like, hey, she's definitely got more to it than just the riding side is amazing. And then just going back to the liaison thing. So when you were with Burton, you were still doing liaison work with the Paralympic athletes and like through Burton as well, or?
Yeah, absolutely, on both sides. So anytime I was on snow, I was either with adaptive athletes or professional athletes or just my friends who also read the products who are riding at that high level. So kind of anytime I was on snow, I was taking photos, taking like mental notes and trying to bring that feedback back to the team just to try to make the stuff as good as we possibly could.
And when you were with Burton, like what were you working on with the Paralympic athletes?
We were working to optimize the fit between the prosthetic and the boot itself, so we were 3D printing all these different components that were mounting onto the leading prosthetic in the industry. And then we later worked to eliminate the boot to create an exoskeleton that has all the critical dimensions and components that a step-on boot contains, so that we could eliminate the boot, create something that the prosthetic could fit into and be accessible, and allow the user to be able to, change the internal piston pressure of the prosthetic itself, make any tweaks they wanted to the system, and just make snowboarding more accessible and friendly for everyone. It started with working with like BK and AK riders, so people who below the knee amputees, above the knee amputees, and then later we started working with people with upper extremity limitations, really any types of impairments, paralyzed, uh, all over the place. So many different types of impairments, working to make snowboarding easy for everyone.
I mean, that's the goal in general, is get as many people snowboarding as you possibly can. So, and really keep them out there and loving it. So that's awesome. And did that kind of translate over to FASE when you joined Rome and that whole thing?
It 100% translated because to me, like Step-On is truly an accessibility based snowboarding. Step-On is truly an accessibility based system. Keeps people snowboarding for longer, and it opens up way more groups to be more comfortable on snow and have access to more terrain and just feel more comfortable on snow. Like to me, that's truly what that system offers. And with FASE, it is a quick binding system that allows people to interact with their bindings differently to make access easier.
I mean, I think you said it perfectly, where it is a different idea behind just an easy entry binding, where phase definitely performance based binding. Like, you were in Canada and you were pretty much riding it the whole time last week, is what you were saying before this. Like,
Yeah, up at A camp, my friend Dave runs the camp, and we're taking rope tow laps every day, hiking different features, different rails, and it was pretty cool to see it at or to ride it at A camp because you're riding it in super slushy, like summery style snow, all different types of like slopes and angles, and it's just honestly the best way to test this thing. But yeah, Step On is something completely different from Phase. Phase is truly a performance based system. It's everything you get from a regular conventional two strap binding with a bunch of benefits. So I see no loss here.
and I think with phase, like going back to your like Paralympic work, I think this definitely could translate to that as well. Like, is that in the future for you guys of figuring out just a perfect way how to kind of, I don't want to say cannibalize that stuff on market, but just kind of make it more accessible to those types of riders?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if we're trying to make the most convenient, accessible system, then I think is a way to make phase that system.
And just kind of going back to, you were riding this in Canada, and what size boot do you have? And are they going to have like a women's option this year coming out so like more people can get on it? Or is it just going to be a small katana or battalion version? Or how's that going to work?
I mean, I'm a women's size 6, 6.5. When I'm grabbing a sample, I can run a 7, but I definitely have small feet. And having a smaller foot sometimes adds to heel lift, so I'll go to strap in and my boot will be moving around in the binding quite a bit. And something that I see as a benefit to phase is optimal fit. So I think the story being told is convenience, but to me the fit is just next level because the second you step in, that paddle engages, that high back snaps up, it hits the back of the backstay of your boot, and your heel's definitely not lifting. Like when I was riding samples, I was riding men's mediums with a women's 6 and I wasn't experiencing heel lift. That was like the first time that it really like struck me where I was like, damn, I'm doing everything I can to kind of fill out sections of the binding because obviously my boot is much too small for that binding. But since it is the sample, you always start with men's medium just because it's easier to get products on snow. It's a volume that we sell a lot of, and that's kind of the base. And then you work your way into the different sizing. But something that's pretty cool that was recognized by Dennis, who's the CEO, was I was supposed to go ride out in Ruko with Rene, and he was asking if I was going to ride phase, and I told him right away, like, I wish, but I'm a women's small, and I want to like actually lap and ride the setup at Ruko, so I probably won't be riding it. And he immediately was like, oh, we got to open smalls then, and like that became a priority to him. So usually you go medium, medium large, or no, sorry, you go medium, and then you go LXL, and then S is usually the last size. But in this case, S did take priority because I think he did realize once I said that a majority of people won't really have access to riding a medium because their feet are just too small.
So we can expect to see some smalls coming out this year.
Oh, they're coming.
Awesome, awesome. Because we've had so many questions about that on the live stream. Like, hey, my wife wants them. Is she going to be able to? We're like, as far as we know, we think like, because I know like Jones and 32 aren't doing the smalls this year, is what I've been told. So the fact that you guys are, that's absolutely huge.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what the status is on their tooling for the graded sizes, but we'll definitely have the offering for both Battalion and Rome.
And when you worked on phase, you pretty much focused on this heel system that they were designing it for, pretty much trying to create this metal and just make it as fluid as possible. And that's what you were working on?
Yeah, so basically Nidecker owns the tech, so they own the tech for phase itself. And then each brand under the umbrella has been able to integrate the tech accordingly based off of their existing platforms. So for us, the 3-point system, which is the Ace and Wrap chassis, is kind of our renowned kind of go-to binding, I guess you could say. Like people really seem to love the katana, and so that's something we didn't want to have to compromise on, was going to a unibody style system. I mean, a unibody is amazing, but it would be amazing to have, both. So for us, fitting, or it's almost like retrofitting that tech to work with our existing platform was kind of a process, but we were able to make it work through quite a few iterations. And I think something that comes into play is when you're forming these heel hoops, there's different tolerances and different stack ups, and there's a lot that comes into play when making these components and parts work together. These sub-assemblies need to work, they need to fit, they need to nest nicely, there needs to be no slop. Like, it has to be as form-fitting as we possibly can make it.
Was that like one of the problems? Because with a metal heel cup, you don't have all of that extra material like you do on a unibody chassis. So was that a huge problem for you to try to get it nice and still streamlined and not look just chunky in the heel like some other fast entry bindings have looked in the past?
I mean, that's something our ID team thought a lot about and was a major focus, because we want this thing to look as much like a two-strap binding as possible and perform as good, if not better, than the current two straps. Like, that is the ultimate goal, to make it look and feel the same as the binding that you always, use on a day-to-day basis. So to make that transition seamless from a two strap, which I don't even think that's the right term, because this technically is a two strap binding, but I guess like a classic OG binding, that transition from a classic OG binding to the FASE version of that binding should be completely seamless. And so to me, that's something I care a lot about, just because as a rider, it's like looking down at my feet. It just hits different when you have something that feels comfortable, looks good on the shelf, feels like it's a part of like your standard day-to-day setup. It makes it easier for people to want to hop on it.
Totally. No, that's 100% fact. Where like the first time I could say when I got on them, I was like, I feel kind of weird getting into this. And then once my foot's in, I'm like, it's a normal binding. Just calm down. It's not that weird.
Totally. It's actually super sick being able to introduce it to my friends who are like other pro athletes and riders from different teams and stuff. Just working with everybody to get all of their feedback and try to bring that back to the Nidecker table has been super sick. Everybody that I've worked with, that's the number one comment that they have, is that, oh, it rides the exact same, so I don't really see an issue.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I felt. I was like, I can ride these all year. There's no problem there with it. Like, it feels good. It's nice. It pretty much feels like a standard binding that I can trust.
Yeah, I mean, it was super fun though. Like, after being at Burton for 5 years, and then I just hit my 2-year mark here at LPS last month. But making that transition from working on, innovative kind of next level products at Burton to doing the same thing here at LPS in Rome has been super, super cool, because it's not just a plug and play, cut and dry transition. It's been, we're thinking how all these straps work with the ladders, with the testing that's needed for high back. Like, there's so much testing that goes on behind the scenes that you'd never see. But the transition was pretty cool, because I went through the process and protocol of working with bindings at Burton, so understanding kind of how these products are commercialized and rolled out in the safest way possible has been like pretty fun.
Just going back to the testing, like what kind of tests do you guys do on these bindings to make sure like when you step into this thing and like press down, you're not going to have a super cold day and crack this piece and then you're just like shit out of luck because your high back's wide open.
I mean, we went through a lot of testing, especially with the testing that's been really cool, actually, because since Nidecker owns all of these brands, we are doing a ton of lab testing across all brands. So that to me has been pretty awesome.
With having that huge umbrella and having all of these different versions of it, you guys can definitely just cross, like be like, hey, we did this testing on the high back and this happened for us. Like, this failed here. Are you guys having that same problem? Stuff like that.
Exactly, yeah, and we're sharing out the testing results across all brands, so it's been pretty cool. Like, I'm just glancing at the general test summary here at our factory, and it's like breaks it down between different components. So you have your whole binding, you have bindings packed in carton box, you have like disc mounting screw, foot strap, buckle lever, foot strap and buckle, ladder strap, chassis, disc, high back, paint tests, hardware tests, different types of screws, EVA adhesion tests, like so many different tests that come into play when developing something that's, new to our line, let alone something that implements a new technology. So a lot of the phase specific testing has been done alongside Nidecker, but while we're developing our high backs that do have to have the slot that the paddle needs to fit within, that does have to have the same structural integrity of our current high backs, that cannot break, that has different material options. Like, we have 7% glass fill, we have 14% glass fill. Like, there are so many different things that come into play while developing this thing. So for us, it's like, you look at the Katana OG version should perform the same as the Katana phase version. So using the same glass, using the same high back shape, using everything that we know has proven success on the current katana and carrying that over to FaZe has been one of the coolest parts of this journey.
It's amazing how you guys were able to keep it almost the exact same and not actually have extra material hanging around, even though you have quite a bit extra just housing in the back of the heel cup there.
I'm stoked that that's your observation. For real. Like, our ID team is going to be so hyped to hear you say that.
Because I like looking at it, Avron had these pretty much the whole year, and I had the unibody version. And just like looking at these, like how you were able to fit everything into this small package is amazing to me without having to hollow out plastic or anything like that. And just having this conform to kind of suck up all that extra surface area is crazy.
The process was pretty cool. Seeing like on screen, looking at like Josh working alongside me, working on the heel hoop itself and just changing minor surfaces to try to tweak them for strength and integrity.
So when you joined 2 years ago, the phase system has already been thought of. They've been working on it for a couple of years. When you joined, did it like kind of catch you off guard as to what was going on, or was it like I have to come up with these new components for the binding, or did they already have the technology in place and you just had to pretty much part it together? Or was it almost like we're waiting for this technology to come out, or like we pretty much have to invent it?
I mean, working for a different brand in the industry, I had no idea this was happening. So day one at Rome, when this project's being introduced to me, I was pretty surprised, but also really excited. But seeing the work that Nidecker had put in to create a system that is functional and does work well was pretty cool. Trying to take like basically on screen, you see our binding, and then you see the Nidecker binding that's being offered, and right away we're just going over what components can be shared and how we can take from existing platforms to make it work with FaZe was kind of the first step. So because a lot of the components did exist, so like I'm looking at a little list here. We got heel hoop, footbed slider, base plates, straps with garages, updated ladder strap, updated ankle ladder strap, updated toe ladder strap, sub base pad, EVA. We're looking to see what components can be shared across both bindings. So the first thing we look at is the base plate. The base plate is actually the exact same base plate you see on all of our bindings.
It's ideal, honestly, because that way you're like, we're saving parts, we're saving money right here. That's huge.
Well, and it's a proven success. So going through the development of a new base plate is pretty complex. Just seeing, what forces make the binding perform differently, how it's flexing in different ways, what are the deformation rates in specific areas at X amount of loads. Like there is a lot of technical things that come into play while designing a new base plate.
That's the foundation pretty much for the binding, because that's the only part that's actually mounting to the board. So if that thing's weak, you're screwed. Like I've seen a lot of other companies come in with cheap base plates, and then the people buy it, they come back the day later and they're like, hey, my base plate cracked. And you're like, well, I don't have extras, like I don't know what to tell you, what'd you do wrong? And they're like, you mounted it. And you're like, all right, that was something wrong then.
I'm very kind of engineering in a lot of ways, where in my mind I'm like bindings should be the most durable we can possibly make them, the easiest to work with, and just you shouldn't be concerned or caring about the safety of your binding, because it truly is a liability. Like we need to make something that works, is safe, and is easy to work with. Because you're interacting with it every single run.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you mentioned before, like you guys had to redesign or make sure like this ankle strap was good. What made you, first off, I love this ankle strap. This one's great.
Me
Like the,
too.
the updated
It's my
Oxtec
favorite.
is great.
Yeah, the Omni
Um,
strap is for sure my favorite right now.
did you guys, because it is more filled in than like the previous model where you had a bunch of holes and stuff, did you guys find it was easier to use this one for just entry and performance wise? Or did you decide like, hey, we just need a higher end ankle strap on this like we have on the Katana Pro?
I think we were just looking to upgrade the strap itself. So, especially because our team is working on both Rome and Bataleon, it's like seeing how Desmopin feels in hand and seeing how different TPUs feel in hand and figuring out the way to kind of elevate the strap was really what we were targeting. Which, in my mind, it definitely does have an elevated in-hand feel and ride feel. Like, I'm really stoked on that strap.
Oh, I love that strap. That's definitely top five straps I think ever made. Probably, where there's a few others
Sick.
out
I'm
there.
so stoked you like it.
Oh yeah, me and Avron both absolutely love that strap. Where when I got on the Katana Pros this year, I'm like, yeah, I get it now. Like this is the shit.
And it's noticeable. Like you can for sure feel like it conforms really nicely around your boot. I have not experienced any specific pressure points. Yeah, flex distribution seems really good. I'm stoked on that strap, but there definitely was a lot of development that went into place regarding the garages. So on our current strap, we just have those two little garages that kind of guide the ladders on both medial adjustment ladder and the actual ladder itself. But on the FASE version, you have a garage that contains the ladder so that that thing's not kind of going all over the place. But in order for that to kind of thread nicely, there needs to be medial and lateral guides. Like if you take that strap apart, you'll see all the different layers that are there to keep everything contained kind of as one. And that was interesting because as you put the ladder into the buckle, we're looking to minimize friction, right? So the easier it is to kind of have it wrap around your boot, the better. And that has been interesting on the development side of that strap because we wanted to make it work as good as possible without kind of folding on itself or creating any issues on snow.
I mean, this strap is great because when you do actually slide this whole thing in, you don't have to worry about it like coming out this side or anything like popping out. Like on these Jones ones I have, it doesn't fully go through the whole way. As you can see, there's a big gap there, and sometimes it will poke out, and then you just got your strap dangling there. So
It's nice to have it all packaged.
exactly, and especially for what it is, like you when you go to get out, you don't have to worry about it hanging up on anything else to get out. Where I've noticed on the Jones ones, every once in a while, if I'm just
I
in
wish
a
you could see how many iterations we went through on that strap. Like it's
that would
so
be
crazy.
actually great to
There's
see.
a lot of thought has been put into minimizing friction between the ladder and the buckle. And when that ladder wraps around the strap, that the way that the ladder is formed, you need to make sure that it wraps around the contour of the strap itself and is threaded nicely between all those layers, honestly. So,
Yeah, 100%. Otherwise, you're just gonna have a nightmare trying to get out if it gets woven and just wedged in there. You're like, okay, this is tough.
and then the development of the ladder itself, it was something I spent a lot of time on too. So it's been an interesting process doing that. But because it's longer, we had to perform a lot of tests on that strap to make sure that it passed lab testing and then it passed snow testing. And it has kind of a living hinge release on the end, just like Nidecker has, that you press down to engage it to slip underneath the catch tooth of the buckle. So it's not, pulling out every time. But if you do hold the release lever of the buckle down, it will pop out. So, when you go to get out of your binding, you pull up the release lever, pull the actual buckle housing over. It should be able to catch that tab without popping out. So, and we wanted to come up with something that did release when someone needs to get out. So like I noticed that at A camp when you you slip off something and you slam and you're like kind of like on your back trying to get out of this thing, you should be able to release it when needed.
Yeah, I mean, when I've been on just any version of the phase and needed to get out, I try to put these things through hell when I'm testing stuff. So I kick my foot out and I notice that it will release on both sides. And like, oh, I can just slide that back in and we're good to go. And it's like a last ditch effort. You're about to fall in the lift line or something. You can just boot out and be totally fine with it and just slide it back in like nothing happened.
Yeah, another thing is I'm sure you've looked at the toe ladder. Like it looks very similar to our current toe ladders, but it actually does have that channel down the center. So when you pull the release lever, there's a hook on the bottom side that engages with a notch in the channel, so that it stays in the same position basically. So when you're in the lift line and you go to slap your board down, it shouldn't snap out of position.
Yeah, and it's awesome because that was the only thing where it was like every once in a while you step on it, it'll squish down in your strap and you got to readjust it. But that's awesome that you guys have fixed that for production where it's like that's your spot.
There's a little spacer on the release lever that when you do push down, it won't move in the slot of the housing. The pin won't move down, so it'll catch it.
Yep, I could see that. I don't think I'll be able to get anybody else to see that because it's really in there, but I know exactly what you're talking about then.
Also, I'm like way too into the intricacies of buckle design right now, but
It's not a bad thing. Buckles are pretty much the only thing you're actually touching on the board or on the binding.
thank you.
So
That's how I feel.
and if you have play in your buckle, we talk about it in the reviews. Like, how are the buckles? And you're like, there's a little play in there. You you'll live through it, or it's like that buckle's the most solid thing ever. Like you just grab it and yank it, and know it's not going to rip out of your hand. We appreciate good buckles here. We appreciate them, especially because you're getting in and out all the time, and especially with what we do, it's like constantly, every day, all day. That's all you're doing is getting in and
And
out.
we're also nerds, so we pay close attention to it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the best thing to have, just nerdy snowboarders out there. So you kind of already mentioned like the katana was so well received. Is that why you guys made it pretty much the first introduction for the phase system then?
Yeah, I mean, the katana is a staple in our line, and I think, yeah, we use kind of that as a baseline. If we can make our premium binding equally as good, if not better, in the phase version, then that's the ultimate goal. And in my opinion, the performance is for sure there, especially with the optimized fit and convenience aspect. So you get convenience, you get optimized fit, and you get the not exact same, but very similar components shared across both binding models, with like same flex in the high back, same glass, keeping it consistent across each.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's actually pretty tough because you have all this extra missing high back here because of just the housing system. So getting just that exact feel to the regular katana, it must have been quite the challenge for you. Did you have to change the high back like compound pretty much to, I don't know if that's the right word, but to get it to feel the same?
No, because we used the current material as the baseline. So we started with that and then decided what can we do to reinforce it in certain areas, what needs to be kept consistent across Nidecker high backs to our high backs. There's a lot of geometries we needed to keep consistent across both. So we were kind of working alongside them to figure out how we could meet the standard, basically.
Yeah, feel free to get into it as much as possible, especially because I mean, you guys do have this like slit in there, so it does allow a little bit more lateral play as opposed to just being crazy stiff. And our fans like that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. They like to nerd out on it. I mean, they
Hell
watch the
yeah.
live
Sick.
streams and add all of these crazy questions. Like, I don't know the exact geometry behind this to really explain it properly. So if you want to get into it, you're more than welcome to. Like they'll get most of it.
Yeah, so basically everything surrounding that FLA block and the FLA lever, I'd say, I don't know, within 10 millimeters from the center line needs to be consistent across both brands. Because that's kind of the foundation of phase, where it's like there's a section of it that you're really not supposed to change, because that has undergone so much testing that if you do change critical geometry, you might be compromising performance of the actual system itself. So there were a few things that we used as a constraint within our project brief, and figured out what we were allowed to change and what we could change to match the flex of the two high backs. So that related to, different swing arm tests that we had to pass, different cycle tests, fatigue tests, which comes with cycle, static bend. Like there's a lot that does need to be passed. All the ISO spec tests.
Just testing on testing. No wonder it took 5
Yeah,
years
which
for this thing to work out. Like, but yeah, I mean, it's great that you guys are doing your research and everything as opposed to just rolling it out first year and be like, we'll just deal with the warranties when it comes. It's like,
yeah, I mean that's definitely been a focus. Like I just got back from China 2 days ago, and being able to work with the in-house team in China has been really, really cool. Because that's something about having a small team that I love is when I do have comments or things that I need to bring to the table, whether it's comments from my friends that are writing this binding or myself that's writing this binding, I can bring it right to our development team, and then I can also bring it to our team that is producing the equipment. If I have something that concerns myself, I can just, which I definitely did quite a bit, you can just add on an extra test while you're there to ensure that the safety or sometimes it's not even usually safety at this point. It's like little things that I pay attention to, like different flex patterns, like I just mentioned, or just something that I want to get double checked. So we'll do like different freeze tests whether it's on the whole binding or a single component, just as much as we can to validate the performance of it is the goal. But that's what I love is it's like working alongside our manufacturing team that's commercializing the product with us. They have a full engineering team in house as well, and it's super cool. Like I love that side of it.
so you said you're just in China. Like, where do you spend most of your time then? Because I mean, you work with Chilton, he's over in Amsterdam, you're in the US right now, I believe. So how does that split out? pretty much for you.
So it's a pretty unique role. I am so grateful for being offered this position, and working alongside Dennis, the CEO, to try to bring this thing to life. So it's basically, for a majority of my season, I'm gonna try to explain this in the best way that I can because it is kind of all over the place. For the winter months, I'm on snow as much as possible, right? So I'm traveling, I'm filming, I'm competing. My brother also rides for Rome. He films and edits and rides. So we work together to get as many clips as we can while I'm not while I'm not in office, but I'm still working. So while I'm riding and filming with my brother and the team, I'm still taking photos of everything, taking everyone's feedback, and just like consolidating my notes and thoughts and then bringing it back to our team. So throughout the winter months, I still am working. It's just I'm getting as much time on snow as possible, which is actually pretty cool because if there's something that someone brings to the table and says, "Oh, can you check this out?" then I can just check it out, no problem. And then we get the feedback as quickly as possible versus, you know, having all these, which we do still have testers in different areas. So we do have like a testing base, but I'm kind of that go-to point person for putting it on snow, which I love because it just interests me a lot. But making sure that our team feedback is heard is absolutely a priority. So throughout the winter months, we're filming, riding, competing. We're at demos. I'm still like working with people in the office as much as possible. And then the second the snow melts, that's when I hop back in office. And I'm in Amsterdam. So I live in The Hague, which is like an hour and a half, or let's say like an hour southwest of Amsterdam, on the beach. And so we wanted to be there because it was kind of a drastic change going from like Vermont to a city. And so being in The Hague is like a pretty sick spot to be. And there's domes all over the place. There's 6 domes around us. We go to ITOF all the time. It's actually super sick. They let us set up whatever features we want. You could put a little tube in, and literally whatever you want to do is like fair game. Working with their park team is so freaking fun. But yeah, it's like we can test after work, test on the weekends, but it doesn't even feel like testing because it's just like an organic way of riding the stuff that I'm already working on and taking photos. And it's sick because my girlfriend is riding all the same stuff as me. So if she just started snowboarding like 2 years ago, so if she has like a question or a concern, it's like maybe something I don't think about because I'm interacting with the gear so much, like at that level, which is like pretty involved. So sometimes I miss things that maybe she can like shed light on, which is pretty cool. Even like throughout the months where I'm like posted up in the office, like I'm still riding, which has been the coolest thing about this job. And then my family's in Vermont, so when I do go back to Vermont, I'm working out of the Vermont office. But the parent company LPS is in Amsterdam, so I'm based out of Amsterdam. But then when I make trips to Vermont, like this past summer, I'm in Vermont, or I'm heading to Vermont tomorrow. I'm gonna see my family, work with my brother, and then also be able to go to the office. So it worked out like super nicely.
That's amazing that you do have that person that can definitely be like, "Hey, I don't understand what's going on here." And you're like, "Oh, I've been snowboarding forever. It makes sense to me." But that totally is like you can still bounce that off them and be like, "Hey, is this how it works?" Or like, "What's going on for you being a very new rider, like just trying to get into it?"
It's sick because it's like having Rachel ride things. It's like she might have a question about like fit or changing, I don't know, the heel hoop position to make it, fit her boot size. Like that would be like a question she might have. Then I'm like, "Oh, you loosen this screw, this screw, this screw, we slide it up here. Now do you feel less heel heavy?" And she's like, "Oh my god, yeah, night and day." Or knowing like where to adjust her strap to so she doesn't get a pressure point, or if it's not too far on the lateral side where she's cranking it out and it's bottoming out on the last 2 teeth and she's like, why does it feel so weird? And then I'm like, "Oh, it probably feels weird because the strap's not centered." So like things that, seem to us like the first thing you do when you set up your binding, not everyone's gonna know that right off the bat. So it's pretty cool like having her feedback.
Well, I mean, what we've learned is a lot of people are scared of screwdrivers now. They're like, "I don't want to touch anything. It looks perfect."
Well, so especially now I'm getting like really excited, but that's especially with FASE where there's this new tech that's being introduced, and like you just said, a lot of people don't want to touch the screwdriver. They want to just see what it's like out of the box. So ultimately we've been focusing on optimizing fit and functionality fresh out of the box so that you shouldn't have to make too many changes, if that. And if there are changes to be made, they should be minor.
Yeah, and that's huge because going over just a bunch of different reps in the industry, talking with them, it's like, yeah, you got to change this on the binding pretty much right out of the box. And you're like, don't want to do that. I want pretty much 90% of the riders to pull it out of the box, put it on their boot, put it on the board, and call it a day. And it's great that you guys are already thinking of that, where it's like people are lazy, people are kind of dumb, honestly, and they don't want to do stuff.
Even the people that know how to adjust it don't really want to put in the effort to adjust it. So like my brother, who's been riding forever, he's an insane snowboarder, does not change his setup at all. He just fresh out of the box slaps him on his board. He knows his angles, he knows his width, but like Joey's not going to be thinking about how he should adjust his strap to optimize medial tweakability. Like that's like no.
100%. I mean, you look at any of the half pipe riders like that are on the pro circuit right now, half of them are super heel heavy. And you're like, what are you doing? Like, just slide that binding up and you're going to have way better response to it. But it's like, you'll be watching, it's like toes right at the edge of the board and heels hanging
Yep.
like 3 inches off the
Like,
back. And you're like, what is going on
oh
here?
my God, you're so right.
It's the most frustrating thing to watch.
Like, positioning should be, stock positioning out of the box should be like a major focus, I think.
100%.
And I think from a rider standpoint, I'm seeing like what my friends have to say, and like a lot of them aren't adjusting their bindings like we are, you know?
No.
So like, to be honest with you, I feel like it's like 5% of people will actually adjust the binding. But that 5% has a lot to say. Like I have a lot to say, you know?
Yeah,
Maybe
it's
it's, I don't know.
100%.
I just made that number up, but it's just like based off of the feedback that I get from my friends. That's kind of what it seems like.
Oh yeah,
Like, only
no.
a few people are actually making the mods.
No, after working in a shop, it's like, you want me to put those bindings on? Like, sure. And it's like, wait, what are you doing right now? Like, well, I got to move the heel cup. You're a size 8 boot and a medium. Like, you got to go small. And they're like, I've never seen this done before. And you're like, oh, okay, that's what we're doing. Like, I'll show you everything then. But going back to like working with the pros, because you are like the liaison for that as well. What's that like getting feedback from pros on this new system, especially working with like Stale, who won natural selection on these things? How much does that come into play for you guys as opposed to like the general consumer? Because pros definitely on a way different level. Like,
It's something that I prioritize and I very much stand by because it's critical. So
mhm,
the comments that these riders have and the fatigue that these parts are undergoing is going to be expedited fatigue testing, basically.
okay,
So if you see breakage or wear or a pressure point in a specific area, that's usually something you'll see from the quote average consumer in 3 years or whatever. Like
mhm,
it should be um heard and really valued because I think it is extremely valuable. So like if my brother is saying, okay, I'm noticing like on the medial, like he'll point to like a spot or send me a photo and be like, how come I feel something here that feels unusual? And then I'm like, oh, well, maybe you just need to position the strap lower or whatever, like things like that.
mhm.
I'm like really getting into the intricacies here, but
No, that's fine.
I don't know. I think team router feedback is the most valuable feedback that any hard goods brand could ever receive.
Mhm.
And that's
Uh,
something I very much prioritize, and my boss Chilton like very much prioritizes it. It's super sick because we
totally.
have such a small team that it's like any comments I have, he like makes sure he's making sure that they're heard and that they're addressed. So it's like working with Stale and Rene. They'll send me photos, they'll send me questions, they'll send me like any comments they really have because like these are
Yeah,
like my homies too. Like it's
it'll
not
work.
just like this weird you know, like weird tension between like a coworker. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't really exist because we're
Yeah,
all just
totally.
friends.
And that's what makes snowboarding so great is it's not like this is a work relationship. It's like I hang out with you in our free time, even though I talk to you almost every day about work. So
Exactly.
yeah, like
It's like the coolest thing ever about this role.
all of my friends are all working in the industry. It's like, well, I don't have time to actually hang out with you, but I'll see you at the demos and the trade shows. So that's just as good.
Totally. And I feel like Dennis like for sure saw value in that because the second I was mentioning what my ideal role would consist of, he was like, I didn't even have to explain it like at all. He immediately was like, "Well, yeah, that's extremely valuable." Like he loves to hear rider feedback, and I think a lot of brands try to focus on you know rider driven that kind of a thing, but at Rome because the brand is so small, the rider feedback is prioritized.
That's awesome. That's great. And who's the most in tune rider with their gear? Who's like, this is off on this. I need this tweaked right here or something like that.
I feel like Stale is pretty particular, and he's open to trying new things. So like even at DIYX, like we're handing him a new strap like at the event. Like I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. Like, and he'll try it out. So it's like stuff like that.
I mean, he knows exactly what he wants. He's been doing it forever.
I say I saw him at DIY 'cause I don't think he was like actually like sessioning things, but like we're handing him the strap and he's riding it, the next weekend and then sending me comments being like, "Oh, like I love this, and this." But he's super in tune and he's really open to like trying new things.
That's awesome because I've heard of a few that are like, this is how it needs to be. This is what I'm looking for, and it's like, well, it's not all about you. Sometimes it's about the consumer too. So
Well, I feel like on the board side that's super prevalent. On the binding side, I feel like because there's so much to interact with, a lot of people just avoid addressing it, if that makes sense.
no, I get what you're saying. Where it's like, I don't know what I'm looking for on it, but that's pretty much like what it is. Here's what I like. Here's what I don't know that I don't like, or pretty much. So yeah, no, that makes total sense to it.
I showed my brother where the FLA is on FASE, and he had no idea that it was an FLA because of how integrated it is with the FLA block. Like, because he's used to looking at an over center lever. Joey's like, oh, so there's no forward lean, but Joey doesn't ride with forward lean, so it's not priority. But because it is so nicely integrated and it's so tiny, some people
Hmm.
don't know it's there.
Oh,
So half of
100%.
my job also is educating our riders on like what you can do to your bindings. So like with the kink ladders, this is like really specific to me, but I love how low the kink ladder drops on the medial side because I do a lot of tuck knees and a lot of like laybacks and just kind of different style tricks. So
Hmm.
I'll like tell my friends about different ways they can adjust their straps to optimize fit. So my ankle was like super messed up at one point. It was super blown out, and I just flipped the medial. I flipped the kink ladders so that I had a higher support on the
Hmm.
inside, and I can immediately like gap out to the down with no problem. Versus like prior to that, it was really hard to stand up. So strap adjustments like that, especially with friends that injure themselves pretty often, they can make the world of a difference because it basically acts like a brace.
Totally.
So if you can flip it to the up position and add that support to the medial side, then it makes it easier to land things sometimes, especially when you have a weak or blown out ankle from skating or whatever it may have been. So that's
Hmm.
something I always try to tell my friends about because they may not know that that's a change that you can make on our bindings.
Totally. I mean, like 64 points of articulation on that, I think is what it is, where you can literally customize that to exactly where you want it. Like if you want it up on top of your ankle, almost like a third ankle strap, you can do that. Or you can just have it on top of your foot, which is amazing to me because we've had so many fans and customers be like, "Hey man, I got the most jacked up ankle ever. Do you know a binding that's going to work for me?" Like, yeah, we sure do. Like, there you got options.
Sick. I'm stoked that that's something you think about often too, because I feel like I'm knock on wood. I get injured like quite often, but it's like I'm also subjecting myself to that. Like it's just part of the game. But I think with the option to have adjustability in your bindings is really really nice. So like I don't know, there have been quite a few things I've done just to like try to make my setup allow myself to feel more comfortable on my board. Like if I'm like have pain in my like inside of my knee or something like that.
The longer you can ride, the better. And if you can change something on your binding to make you ride better, it's just going to make it a lot more enjoyable for you for pretty much everything.
Or like something I just thought of while working with adaptive athletes is I have some friends with paralyzed back arms or like really bad arthritis in their hand. So sometimes I'll swap the straps so that the buckles are actually on the inside because sometimes it's easier to reach across to the inside. And I did that for one of my friends that blew their shoulder out because it was really hard for them to like bend down and go to the inside or go to the outside versus if you swap to the inside they could use their um like stronger shoulder.
I mean, that's why some companies do it for their kids' bindings because it's a lot easier to go to the inside than it is to the outside. And it just makes sense that way. So going back to phase, what is stopping somebody from pretty much just getting their hands on this heel cup and putting it on the actual chassis of the like a regular binding, pretty much converting the regular katanas into this one? Is there a different integration system? Because we've had a lot of questions on that. Like, can I make like a black label phase? Like, is that possible, or has the mounting and everything been changed?
The heel hoop will mount on the same base plate as our current and existing base plates, but the high backs are different, so they have to have a slot opening for the paddle. Um, but there are, I mean, components you can use. Like our toe straps are the exact same toe straps. Our base plate is the exact same base plate. We had to change the footbed assembly because with the slider, we wanted to make sure that there were through holes that allowed independent positioning so that when you're kicking into this thing, it's not, we didn't want any parts smearing or breaking or undergoing any type of like shift. So the slider is different. If you take a look at the footbed on FASE and you take a look at the footbed on our standard katana, they are different because there's like you'll see like a washer through the center with three through holes, and that's for small, medium, large mounting. So that's one of the main things because you need that nice smooth surface when you go to step in to minimize friction as your toes catching the toe strap.
And how are you able to make this, like, because it does have a hard, pretty much top on it, but how are you able to make this and still keep it nice and damp and keep it not exactly what the regular katana is, because that's one of the dampest bindings out on the market. Like, how are you still able to keep this nice and, I don't know if soft is the right word, but not just fully like plastic hard?
Well, if you take a look at it, there's multiple components that make up the subassembly of the slider that you're holding. So there's PA66 in the center, and then as you go towards the outside, there's that foam. So it's basically sandwiched. And that slider is very thin. I don't actually have. I'd have to like pull up the CAD and look on my computer, but it's it's not going to impact the dampening of the binding. Like it's not going to feel really dead and have some of the negative side effects that you were just speaking to because it's the exact same assembly as our current footbeds, just with a larger sliding surface. So that when you go to step in, your toe will slide, which does make a huge difference. Because I was thinking about it for like a while, and I was just riding phase with our standard footbed, and like the EVA was getting so torn up, and it was like catching as you were trying to step in, and it just was not like enjoyable. I only did it just to see like what it felt like. I do a lot of weird things like that, but
Oh, I mean, that's honestly the best thing you can do, because from what I've learned from doing all this testing on product and stuff, where you got to put it through the ringer in weird ways because you don't know what the general consumer is thinking or going to do. So, in the more weird ways you can do stuff, the better it is, in my opinion.
like even after we've like fully designed something, I'll still make mods. Like I'll like cut things off and just see like, oh look, let's see now that we've designed it, what can we do to redesign it? Just to try to think differently. And then I usually end up coming back to, oh, the original design, this was the intent. So it does match and fit, but it is just fun to see how things can differ by making like really minor changes.
So, like on the Jones and the 32 ones, they only have like their slide plate really tiny in the toe. Did you guys try that as well and just figure this works better if we do the whole surface? Or
Yeah, we did try that. We were trying to figure out like how much surface area you actually needed for the boot to interact with to slide into the correct position. And it really came down to like, I mean, we could actually just make the whole thing smooth and slick so that when you do step in, is there too much medial lateral movement or like what concerns do we have if you add, more surface area for the slide plate? And we saw like no negative side effects because once you're in this thing and you're cranked down, you're not moving. Something I did really like is the texturing or like ribbing makes it really easy to get the snow out versus that's something I like about our current EVA too. You can kind of just take your glove and just like scrape it like that. But on that surface, it makes it so easy to clear the snow. Like it was so crazy being at A camp with like the soft slushy snow. It's just like shoop, it just like goes right off.
no, and that's awesome. And because I even thought about it, I was like, I wonder why they went vertical instead of horizontal. I was like, snow clearing, it has to be because you can just push it right off the toe instead of pushing it into like the side of the chassis or something like that.
Yeah, and it's not like a weird like marketing claim where like sometimes people will say things about their designs which like weren't even the initial intent, but that was the initial design because it's like you should be able to clear it easily without stuff clumping up.
That's awesome that you guys actually thought of that. We're like, this is definitely needed. Do you think that in the future, or will you guys offer like a canted footbed for the or a non-canted footbed for this? So you can just kind of replace it.
I mean potentially. This was just based off of like our current versions. Like I love canted footbeds. I will not go back to flat, no chance. Because it's like if you think about when you're on a skateboard and you do like a if you watch like a slow-mo video of someone doing a back three on a skateboard, the preload, like it's nice to have your knees kind of come in like that. Like it's nice to like be able to preload off the binding so that you can snap it better. Um, I don't really see any benefits having like 0 degree over 2 degree because it's pretty minor canting.
100%, yeah. And I know Avran hates canting, but I'm a like I like canting, so I'm like I'm fine with it. I don't know. That's what I grew up with.
I love it too. I think maybe in the future we'll have a 0 degree offering. It's just more as like the line expands as we're like really diving deeper into phase. Just because this is the first year, so it was just keeping it like I've said before as consistent across both models as we could.
And so in the future, you do see, I guess it definitely depends on how it sells this year, but you guys could see it moving to different bindings in the line. Do you see this system, especially because you already have like a metal heel cup version and you have like a unibody chassis? Do you see other companies trying to adopt this instead of going towards like a step-on version, something like that, where it's like, this is more practical, this is a lot easier, you get to use pretty much most of your components and just have to change a few minor things, and you guys have already done that work. So do you think that more companies are going to go towards this route, or maybe go towards the step-on or the Supermatic route?
I mean, I think something that I should emphasize is that they're completely different systems. Like step on compared to phase, it works so differently. But I think one of the draws to phase is that it rides like a conventional OG binding. So the way that it rides and that the way the binding feels with your boot strapped in, it's the same. Except for it helps with heel lift. So like for me, I do think brands will be drawn to it. To me, phase is not a very polarizing system. It's kind of just the exact same thing as an OG conventional 2-strap binding, just with a couple cool benefits. That's my take on it. But I guess I've been staring at it for a couple years.
I mean, I think the main thing behind it is when you're riding it, nobody knows you're riding it. It looks like, and there's a lot of people out there like, I can't be seen on this or I can't be seen on that piece of product because that's what it is. And it's like, you step into it, you notice the performance instantly, and you're like, doesn't matter what it is, this thing works, and it's just great. I know a lot of people are like, I don't need a fast entry system. You're like, well, you don't need it, but you're not sacrificing anything to get it, and you're not spending extra.
Yeah, TC, it's so crazy you say that because that was me. I'm like, I don't really like. I feel like I'm pretty fast at putting straps together, being in rail jams and like riding all the time. I'm like, putting straps together is not my concern. And it's also funny because going into this, I was like, is it really that much faster? And I have I have all these videos on my phone of my friends strapping in and then like me strapping in. I'm like, honestly, like it is like noticeably a little bit faster. To me, who cares if it's faster? It's nice to be able to like to have it be faster, but like I don't know, on like the Palmas at the domes in the Netherlands, it's pretty sick to be able to just step right in, crank that ankle strap down, and like you're good. Like that I think is kind of cool because you do maybe get a couple more laps in here and there. But I do also I think about like some of my friends who have like upper arm limitations, whether it's like an amputation or a uh upper extremity limitation, like I just said, like this system could benefit them as well. Because I know when people have really bad arthritis, it's hard to put straps together and it's hard to kind of pair everything up and move as fast as you can. But with it all kind of being one thing where you just crank it down, I think it makes it a little bit easier for some people interacting with it. Because that's the number one thing. Like I coach a lot and I see my friends learning how to snowboard who have never done it before. And it does take a second to have the dexterity to like put the straps together and like get everything like all cranked down and good to go. Versus with phase, it's like you just kind of step in and it's right there. You just crank that ankle strap down.
And I mean, that kind of brings me to my next question, which is, what do you have to say to the people that are like, yeah, well, you still have to strap in and unstrap to get in and out? Like, because I've heard that so many times, like, you still have to hit the ankle strap. And it's like, well, kinda. Like,
I just feel like a lot of people are like trying to compare it to Step On, but it's not Step On. It's not like we're trying to be Step On. Step On was not. It's not like we're trying to take market share from Step On. That's not really what's being targeted here. It's more so just offering like a more accessible. It is a faster entry system with optimal fit. In my mind, the what phase is it's you get all the benefits of a current conventional OG 2-strap with some cool extra things.
and I mean, that's exactly what it is, where it's like, yeah, you get a little extra moving parts, but you get that speed to it.
I have yet to receive one comment about how this thing rides on snow in a negative way. Like I have, which is crazy because I'm like I'm talking about this all the time. I'm continually opening up conversations with people, and I have yet to receive one negative comment about how this performs on snow compared to standard 2-strap binding.
100%. Like, the only thing I've heard is people like, well, it's kind of weird to strap in when you're on the side of the mountain. And I'm like, Yeah, it's kind of weird to unstrap when you're on the side of the mountain too, but all right, like
With any new tech, it's going to be opening up conversations of people trying to question why it's being introduced, question who it's supposed to be appealing to. And I think it's as basic as it's literally the exact same thing with some cool stuff.
how often are you unstrapping when you're halfway down on the groomer? And that's what we were getting people doing, and I was like, okay, that's strange, but all right. Like they would get halfway down the run and then take their back foot out of the binding and try to step into the binding when they're on the side of the mountain, like on the steepest part. And they're like, yeah, I just couldn't get my foot to slide in without my board sliding out. And I was like, well, like that's not really what it was intended for.
So it's actually really funny you say that because that's what I was like trying to focus on when I was at A camp. Because obviously you're hiking like in the summer on weird terrain with like just crazy snow mounds piling up from everyone taking a million laps on it in a day. Like I thought that that was going to be a problem because I've been riding this thing, but riding it at A camp was like the ultimate test. I saw no true problems. Like I do the same thing, face up the hill, put my front foot in, make my little shelf, put my back foot in. I thought it was going to be, you know, a battle or a concern or a comment that a lot of people have been speaking to, but I don't know. I didn't truly experience any.
Well, see, that's the thing is I tried the same thing. I was like, what are they talking about? I made the shelf just like you did, and I was like, super easy to get into. And then my first thought was they just tried to step into that thing without making like the shelf and just use the metal edge to hold them. It's like that's not what that was intended for. But I mean, I even put him through the ringer, like stepped in when there's a bunch of pow and everything on the ground. I was like, no, it still works perfectly. I got zero issues with it.
I've tried to do that too, just like take snow, clump it up, and try to get the mechanism stuck, and I have not been able to get it, you know, stuck or frozen. Because like, it's self clearing, which is pretty sick.
Yeah, and when you go to kick your foot in, 99% of the time, unless you've been riding with snow in there that ice to the base tray or the base like footbed, it just kicks right out. So you don't have to worry about all of that snow in there, which is absolutely amazing.
Especially like what you were just speaking to with the larger surface area slider. Just knock it out.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Like Avran stopped and he put it on like in the middle of the run. He's like, "No, this thing works perfectly." And it's like, okay. So it's like the thing works. It's tried, it's true. It's got all the bells and whistles that you could possibly want.
I'm happy you're down with it.
No, I love it. I'm like, I just need one with skate tech. So if you want to put the word out to everybody else, get me some skate tech. I'll be stoked.
All right, let's get the conversation started.
Yeah. Do you guys see a heel wrap version coming in the future? Or are you like, we're gonna let Italian kind of handle that side of it for a little bit, or do you think like we're gonna see like a full heel wrap katana or even like a vice come out?
Potentially. I mean, right now we're really honed in on everything we've been working on for the past year, which you'll start to hear word of what we've been working on shortly. Um, but yeah, my job is kind of to just I'm given design brief and direction, and I just take it and run with it. So I'm not really too sure what's coming up, but yeah, there's definitely been some discussions, and I'm open to applying the tech to work with heel wrap as well. So
So you said you worked with a small team. What's that like? Just like having like three, four people just directly working with you, like trying to get this thing done where you're actually so close to all of these people, as opposed to having, say, at a bigger company where it's like, we got 50 people with their hands in the cookie jar trying to figure everything out and stuff gets lost in the shuffle almost. So,
it's super cool because I feel like my voice is heard, especially working under someone like Chilton who really values team rider feedback, and gets stoked that I'm bringing, you know, this feedback back to our table. I love it, honestly. Like what they always say, like wear a lot of hats kind of a thing. Like working on the manufacturing side, like I love to learn about worlds that are kind of new to me. Like coming from Burton, I worked with our manufacturing engineer. We were pretty tight, so I would always ask her like questions about the development process and working alongside the factory. Now it's kind of like I dove in headfirst, and it's just another world of stuff to learn about. I love it. I think it's the sickest thing ever because you just your voice is being heard more. You know,
totally. No, it's awesome. And then
your brands. You know,
that was going to be my next question, right? It's like, how hard do you have to like lobby to run your ideas up the flagpole and try to get them approved? Where it's like,
So this is something that's pretty cool. Like in the Amsterdam office, we have a 3D printer. In Vermont, we have kind of our RP facility, I guess you could say, like a bunch of different printers there that allow us to do a bunch of different things. But in the Amsterdam office, we just have a classic little FDM printer. You can start it remotely. So like I take the train in, I'll start it at like 7 a.m. Like sometimes I finish my files late. I'll start it at like 7 a.m. Get into work, just pull it off the plate. And Dennis is already walking around. Danny, the creative director, is walking around, and I just show them what I'm working on and just try to like get their thoughts early on so that we don't kind of go down a rabbit hole and then get that yanked out from underneath. That doesn't really happen as much because the team's smaller, so we're all on the same page usually. Where sometimes I'll show Dennis something and he's like, oh, well, what if we do this, this, or this? And then I'll print the next version. Then I'll walk over to his desk, be like, what do you think? And literally just hand it to him. And then he'll like play with it. And then he's like, yeah, seems sick. Let's, do the testing, get it on snow and see what other people think.
No, that's awesome that it's that quick. And how fast can you get like a prototype of phase or really any binding on snow and testing it? Like, is it a day? Is it like a week, or like how does that work?
So quickly. We get protos on snow really quick. It depends on like what component we're testing for. So it's like we have a SLS machine that uses a PA850 powder similar to what Burton was using. That performs to about like 70 to 80% of the strength, I'd say, as our standard injection molded PA66. We have an SLA printer that uses a bunch of different materials. This gives us an idea of, what the surfacing looks like. It helps with ID direction. Really like intricate surfaces, you can see exactly what it'll look like in an injection molded part. Then we also have just like a standard FDM machine that I just mentioned. And we're looking into a few other machines at the moment, but that's also just the side of development that I love, especially having worked in the RP lab at Burton. I see a lot of value in having access to developing new designs and new materials alongside the use of these 3D printers. So, I mean, it depends on what the part is, but we can usually get them pretty damn quick.
How do you decide what materials to like pretty much test out where, like you mentioned before, you have a certain amount of glass in the high back, that sort of thing? Like, how do you guys go through that? Like, to figure out like this is going to have enough structural integrity to even warrant a test?
It depends on what the part is. It's usually like a team decision. Like I'm working on, there's so many different parts. Usually I make a suggestion and then everybody kind of posts their comments and then we all decide on it together. So it is truly like a team effort. Like our team group chat's super fun because it's like it's very professional, but then it's also like you can just be super honest because there's only 3 of us, so or 4 of us in total.
Because like, yeah, like just taking the ankle strap, like it's got flex to it, but once you put this on your ankle, it's there and it's not flexing as much. It's like staying, and it's like, how do you come up with that like material to be like, this is the one, as opposed to using like a softer durometer rubber or urethane, anything like that?
Usually we'll open up tooling and then you can just inject in different durometers of material. So it depends on like what the part is, of course, but usually the design is like validated and looking good in a specific material, and then we see if we can change if we want to change the durometer, you can change the durometer, just see how it feels in hand, see how it feels on snow, see how it does in the lab test. But it's usually based off the initial design that had a design intent surrounding a specific material. And then you look to maybe you can go out of range like slightly. I'm also like, I very much take it to the next level and get like the material specs, and we'll be like trying to figure out how we can differentiate it, at a specific percentage.
Because that's what I've always wondered. I was like, how do they decide? Like, how do you start from scratch and be like, let's just try this durometer?
It's the same thing with like transparent materials. So it's like my phone it's like filled with just all these different albums that have photos of like straps injected in like 80/20, like 40/60, like all these different ranges. And yeah, and then usually the creative team kind of lands on something that they like, but
Well, visually, I mean, it has to fit the geometry too, where you're like, this looks great visually, but you're like, there's no structural integrity to it or anything like that. So, like, that's the other part of it where I'm like, how do they do that? Like, how do they just,
well, the amount of people that have asked about transparent ladders, I'm like, it's just you don't want to go down that.
no. Well, it's like the same with like the cream colored or the white ladders that turn cream colored after a year because they've been sitting in the sun when you're riding and you're like, oh God. Like,
Yep. With the UV exposure.
you have one of the coolest jobs from what I've learned during this interview is you get to live half your time in the US, go to Amsterdam, ride half the year. Like you get to do everything you want to do almost.
Yeah, it's super sick. And even like I was saying it like as half the US, half Amsterdam, but it's actually like half Amsterdam, half a mix of just like traveling all over. So I'm going to like a lot of the events in Europe, whether it's DIYX, Rock a Rail, um, all just so many the European Invitational for the Uninvited, like so many different events because we have such a like new friend base too, where it's like we have so many more homies that are just based all around the world. I think that's been one of the coolest things about living in Europe is making so many different friends. Like one of our good friends who rides for Capita, she hit me up yesterday being like, "Oh, there's actually like I forgot to tell you, there's a double kink at the Dome in Spain. You guys got to come through. Like maybe we could." She's like trying to connect me with the rep there to do a giveaway, like stuff like that. Where it's like even across brands, like we just have friends from all over the world now. You know, like it's so cool. So throughout the winter months, I'm traveling. I'm spending time like kind of all over the place. But it is nice for when I'm back in Vermont. I can swing through the Vermont office. Like my mom's an hour away from the office. See my brother who lives in Burlington. I mean, we're filming together a ton too, but it's just a little bit of everything, which to me is like pretty ideal at the moment.
No, it keeps everything fresh. And I mean, it's like, okay, one day I gotta do this, and then the next day I'm testing it or whatever. But
Yeah, it's like we could be like filming in Finland, or we could be filming around Burlington, or we could be filming up in Saint Sever, like all over the place. Like it's pretty cool.
and then just one last question before you get out of here. What is the most underrated part of snowboarding to you?
The people you meet along the way, I think.
That's the original answer. I haven't gotten that one before.
Really? Because to me, it's just it's so cool. Because like we've been talking about everything here. It's like you have the techie side, the fun design side of things, which is truly a passion of mine. But then you also have the riding side, and you have the cultural side. You have it's just been so insane living in Europe and seeing what the European snowboard scene looks like compared to the Vermont snowboard scene, compared to the Salt Lake snowboard scene, compared to the West Coast. Like there are so many different like cool little communities, and we all care about the same thing. There's a reason we're all drawn to this world, and we're all so passionate about it. And the same passion carries over across design and development as it does filming a street part. You know, it's all just different types of care for the passion that brought us all together. You know, to me, that's the coolest thing about snowboarding. Where it's like you could be coming to Amsterdam and like we're gonna bring you to ITOF, we're gonna bring you to all these places, and you're gonna meet all these people that you probably wouldn't have met otherwise. You know?
Yeah, no, that's actually a great answer. That's very original. Or everybody so far that I've talked to has thought about actually a snowboarding thing, like turning that sort of thing. So that's a very refreshing answer, actually, where it's like, wow, I never thought of that. That's true.
It's it's so cool. Like I was just talking to my girlfriend yesterday, and it's like within the past month, I've been in. We went from Amsterdam to Vermont, Vermont to Saint Sever down to New York, flew out of New York, went to China, came back from China, and now I'm going back up to Vermont to work out of the office there. It's like it's so crazy because I've been in so many different environments where like English isn't always the first language. So like even yesterday we're at a restaurant and I'm like trying to figure out how to order something in a really basic manner and I'm like, "Oh wait, we're in Nantucket. They speak English." Like it's just it's so cool. Like I don't know. It's just I think that's one of the coolest things about snowboarding and having access to all these different cultures and like even working with just people from the factory over in China and seeing who they've met who work for 32 and then I'm educating them on like who Joe Sexton is and how I've always watched Joe's footage and how I'm now like having conversations with him about bindings that I'm working on. Like it's just so cool how it just comes full circle like that. And I think the more people that you can listen to, the more people you can talk to, the better you can improve the product to cater to the needs of everybody. So a big conversation I've been having is like women's product has been drastically improving over the years. And it's difficult to approach that topic sometimes because when sales and numbers come into play, a lot of like men's products are prioritized. And that's usually the talking point. But it's not that it's prioritized, it's just that there hasn't been many women on these development teams or engineering teams that have had a say in the design and direction of the product. So oftentimes it's, you know, sized down and they're, of course, it's getting time on snow, but it's different when you have someone who's on the team caring about that product. So for me with this small, it's like, okay, I'm going to planning to go to Ruka to ride with Rene. And the second I tell Dennis that I won't actually be able to ride it. Then he's like, oh my God, wait, let's get on it now. And I'm like, this is perfect because then we can go into size grading. Then I can talk to all my friends. I can have my girlfriend riding it alongside me. Like, it is one of the coolest things about snowboarding is just talking to as many people as you can and learning about all the different cultures, learning about all the different product offerings, learning about just different appreciations for snowboarding. Sorry, I'm going on a huge rant, but it's the sickest thing on earth.
No, it's great. I love it. That's great actually. But Maggie, I really appreciate you joining today. It's been great. You're just full of knowledge where I'm like, we could go for another 2 hours probably. But
Easy.
yeah, easy. But I know you got other stuff you got to get to today, so I really appreciate you joining us, and I'll definitely have you on in the future. We can really get into more stuff, especially on the women's side, because it sounds like Rome is doing it right on that side for sure, where they're not just, yeah, we got our men's board, we'll just shrink it down, thin it out a little bit, and
No,
call it a day. It's going to work for the ladies if it works for the men, and that's just not the case because we have two totally
totally
different
not.
bodies. So but yeah, I really appreciate it. It's been great. And for everybody out there, make sure you like, subscribe, all that jazz. And thanks, guys. We'll see you on the next one.